Everybody. Give me a moment here. I actually made a mistake in my setup here, so I apologize for that. It is 2:49 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and I had some things I want to talk about. So apologize for this kind of. Oh, everything's messed up. It's all right. This will only take a moment or two to get this connected. So I want to talk about relationships a little bit today, mainly because I've got a dear friend who is wrestling with them, and I just all right. I think we've got this. I'm just gonna play something here just to make sure that the sound is running. So it's kind of cute. It's short though. All right, those kind of like pretty intense there. So that's good. I'm gonna do one more little thing just to test the sound. I apologize for this, everybody. All right, that's actually gonna be better. Oh goodness. Plus it's been a long day, and I should probably just it's on my heart. And I did a thing about relationships, like getting over a relationship, and now I want to do something about like how do you find a relationship of your dreams? David, what's your method? Well, I've done a lot of methods over. Well, I'm 58 years old, so you know, um, I want to share my story, and perhaps in sharing my story, I might actually inspire a process. Um, so you can't find the relationship of your dreams. I'm just going to throw that out there. You may want to argue with me that, but I don't think you can find it. I've been watching. I think most of you've probably been watching it too. The Love Is Blind. I love that show. I enjoyed season three. However, I get frustrated because everyone's looking for somebody. You know, that's not how it works. It's not how it works very well anyway. And I'm going to throw out some references. So if you have a notepad or something, you might want to just grab it. And I should probably just play my little disclaimer video before getting into this, but go get a notepad because I'm going to write down some follow up books and some things. It's not in the description, and you're going to want this information. But while I do this, this is kind of a little thing that I just as a disclaimer. So, all right. So, I'm not a professional licensed anything. So, if you've gone through a breakup or something like that, and it's been a significant relationship, I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of folks, there's all these formulas and things, but it's a 2 to 3 year process to have a full disconnect. And then there's all these, depending on what you believe in, there's all these different spiritual things, like breaking cord connections, all sorts of stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of processes that you can go through to heal. One of the issues that we have, and is that we don't understand our physiology. We don't understand our psychology. We don't understand trauma, and we have all this stuff. Sometimes we call it baggage, and uh, you're not going to find anyone to heal you. You're not going to find anyone to fix you. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't mean you can't find someone to work with you. I'm going to adjust my camera here a little bit. There we go. That's better. I think it's better. So I want to share some processes with you. So I was part of a men's group or team many, many years ago, and I was on part of a leadership team. We had a man in there that we were working through like a leadership program, as a 90-day thing. And he wanted to find I think it was originally he wanted to find the woman of his dreams. And I thought, women want to find the man of the dreams, or if depending on what your gender or fluidity is, it made whatever it is, you're looking for a relationship. Let's just leave it there. But in this case, he was a heterosexual male. Just giving context, okay, not judgment here. Please check that at the door. I believe in everyone's freedoms and rights, and I don't judge folks around stuff like that. So if you're wondering what I'm about, that's a whole other conversation for another time. But I don't care. People are people. Humans are humans. You love who you love, and that's good enough for me. So anyway, bunch of dudes, and uh, I create some interesting exercises during that process, like having men ask women to write a letter to the men, things that they wanted us to know. And that was some of the most interesting letters. And the men would read that. And so, anyway, there's a lot of toxic men thing going out there. There's a lot of toxic women things out there. There's a renewal of the battle between the sexes I see showing up. And some of it's kind of humorous. And there's a thread of truth of a lot of things on both sides. Um, and then we want to be in relationship with each other. So I've had friends who were gay, homosexual, lesbian, all that sort of stuff, and I've noticed things about relationships that are pretty common. So whatever that is for you, I'm going to be coming from my context as a heterosexual male and what worked for me, but I think this would work regardless of your preferences or non-preferences or fluidity. Okay. So, humans are complicated, and yet we're not. So, but I want to share this process. So, this gentleman wanted to find the woman of his dreams, and we concluded you have no control over that. You can't find the person of your dreams. But I'm kind of a data analyst person, right? I'm a very logical person. So I started, like others, like, okay, where's my calculator? Of course, it would be on the other side of the effing room. All right. So get out your calculator and 8 billion people, and then let's forget about age ranges. Just divide by two. Let's just say half and half. So that's 4 billion people. And one out of a million would be 4,000. Hmm. Wow. Should be able to find one, right? Somewhere. I mean, theoretically, all 4,000 of them might have just been born, but when you're taking a sample of 8 billion, but let's just kind of just let's just go with like the fact that there's probably an unlimited number of really cool qualified people that would be an ideal, excellent match for you. Now, if you're looking for one out of a billion, there's only 8. So anyway, I know Hollywood and things like, oh, the one, and it's just like, well, it's more complicated than that. We have different stages of life. So there's like kind of like, you know, um, I'll throw out some paganistic references. Chill out if you're a Christian or Muslim or something else. So they have this like concept of like, the mother maiden crone. You probably heard this. It's a common theme in a lot of our entertainment, right? The warrior, the father, the sage. On the male side of that, I like to call it warrior healer. Women like to adapt that, they're warriors too. So, anyway, so whatever. But what I liked about that, not promoting any kind of ism, okay, just chill, is there's this phase of life when you're young. There's a phase of life when you are like maybe, in a parental role. And there's a phase of life when you're kind of more in an elderly role, or, you're an honored citizen. You've got all this wisdom. So there's these like 3 phases of life. The first phase has a lot to do with sex and sexuality. And the middle phase is a lot about just responsibility and family and that nurturing. And then there's this other thing where you're just kind of being a guide. So I was never taught about any of that when I was a kid. Wasn't taught much of anything. I had really no relationship skills and no really good relationship models. And I think that's the truth for most of us humans. We don't know what we're getting into other than nature. And then we have ideologies trying to interfere with what nature has to say about things. And then it's just an argument. And what is it? Over 52% of all first time marriages fail. I think the best religious belief system statistics 30 years ago had a 52% success rate. That's not a measure of happiness. That's like they were afraid that if the relationship died, they're going to hell kind of thing. So that's really not a context I want to hold to keep a relationship together. I'm thinking about happiness. And I'm going to throw out some names like the Goddard Institute of Relationship. They actually studied relationships, people that are happy, successful, long term. I like data science based stuff. Anything we learned over the last, I don't know, 6 years, 8 years, 20 years during COVID is information should be data driven if it's important. We can have theories, we can have ideas. A lot of these ideologies make assumptions, and just because it's been that way for thousands of years doesn't make it good or right or healthy. Just look at our justice system as a disaster. Look at the war on drugs. We have good data and models of what works, but we're not using them. Kind of profit motives and things kind of disrupt all that. So back to relationships. So my friend wanted to find the woman of his dreams. So we all kind of hammered out this context, and I've evolved it over the decades. And I'm a logical and reasonable person. I mean, I've done the looking for signs, tea leaves, teamancy, uh, tarot cards, mediums, looking for, did I say looking for the signs yet? That was a very, very painful experience. Amazing signs, painful experience. Excuse me. I'm going to see. I found the mute button. Last time I did that, I didn't last stream. So sorry, made you listen to me swallow. I said that into a mic out loud. My friends at work would just be, if they're watching this, they're laughing. Shout out to those folks. Like, yeah, I said that. Multiple streams, 5 streams around the world. Um, I don't even know if there's anyone watching this. Maybe there's somebody watching somewhere. I don't know if the chat module works. It depends on things, but this is kind of designed to be a one-way stream. So someday I'll have it where I'm just working on a channel and I can interact and things, but that's not what this is about. It's more kind of a blog about. So we came up with this concept. It's a mantra of sorts, and it was a goal for him. He came up with it. He said, "I will become the man the woman of my dreams will recognize as hers." Something like that. And that really resonated. It's like, wow, because he can control who he is. So this kind of an evolved context, and I've had a list. I've made the list. I have a friend who's got a 4-page list, and every time she gets into a relationship, she discovers there's things missing on her list. And I've met people who like pulled out their list on their first date, and they carried it around with them, and you know high performance goal setter A type personalities. If you ever there's different things, but they have the 4 quadrants. You got the quadrant up. Anyway, I found myself in any of the 4 quadrants depending on my phase of life. But the point is, this context of, rather than finding the relationship, it's like, well, okay, you got an idea what your preferences are. Like I'm a heterosexual male, so that kind of limits it to women. Some people are fluid that way, and that's irrelevant. But the thing is you have an idea who they are. I know dudes that, they're, especially when they're younger, they have very physical attributes is a big thing to them. And, is love blind? Just watch a show and you find out that, yeah, it can be at first, but it is and it isn't, whatever, whatever. But everyone has these things that they want. And it's okay to have those things that you want. Um, it's okay. I had someone actually come in. I must have bored them to death. Sorry if I did that. But there's these things that people want. But okay, you make your list. Personality, this, that, their thing. You have this list of things you want. The person of your dreams that you think will make you happy, all this other stuff. Now, one of the things that I had to come to terms with is my idea of what I thought I wanted. I yeah, pretty much throughout my life, towards the last 10 years, I realized I wasn't any good at finding those people. which I'm gonna throw out another reference to you. The book, it's called Homo Deus, Homodeus. There's a segment in there about relationships, and this is all gonna kinda make sense. So, I took a 3-year I don't know, this was like 10 years ago. I took 3 years off from I became, I don't know, abstinent. I realized that I didn't know what I was doing in terms of relationships. I had to work on me. And that concept of I will be the man, the woman of my dreams will recognize as hers. Beautiful context. Um, so I had to have an idea who she was, and then I had to ask myself, well, who do I need to be? That kind of puts all the responsibility on me. A lot of times you're looking for her or him or whoever it is because you have this baggage that you need to heal and you're looking for someone to help you unpack the bags. Seems the way, at least that's the way it plays out. It's like, well, what am I bringing to the table? You know, and who is she? What does she need to bring to the table? And the person that left is going to really miss some cool stuff. That's too bad. So I had to change a lot of contexts. Am I just looking for a woman? Am I looking to get laid? Am I what am I looking for? Do I got some sexual fetishes that secretly in the background? I mean, there's all this stuff, and I see men and women just hiding out and things like that. And it's kind of funny is Di and I are going to be together like 6 years, and I went through this. In fact, we connected shortly after a significant relationship ended. There's betrayal, all that cool stuff, and not the way you think. It just betrayal to the commitment to the relationship, and it was devastating. And but I had already spent 3 years working on me. I just turned it off. The whole phase of life thing. I just like, man, I can't keep doing this. I don't have it in me to just keep being hurt and over investing in the relationship and all this stuff. So I kind of had this list of things, and our first date was like a job interview. It's just like I didn't want to waste any time. I guess when you're older, you don't want to waste any time. And anyway, we had like 3 dates in one day, but the thing is I knew exactly kind of what I was looking for in a relationship. I was very, very clear, but I had also done the work on me, on who I needed to be. It was really, really funny. It's like I was not interested in I had a plan, for I was gonna date for 2 or 3 years because there was a healing cycle involved and all that sort of stuff, but the context is what I held on to, not the list, right? And, and so I held the context that I would be this person. So I was being me, and I really liked who I was and who I'd become. I've been an imperfect male throughout my life. I am a testimony that people can grow and change. An old dog can learn new tricks, all that cool stuff. So I was pretty clear on who I needed to be. So I was just being me. I was happy with me, and I had an idea who she was. And oddly enough, I spent money on a platform because I wanted to narrow the dating pool. There's 8 billion people, right? 4 billion women. I'm looking for maybe 1 out of a million, probably maybe only 1 out of 500,000. Who knows? But I ran the number, so I had faith and belief that she or possibility if she was out there. Having that hope can be inspiring to lead you to be willing to change. And, if you look at me, I'm not perfect. I don't have a six pack abs, all the stuff that men kind of obsess over. I don't have that. But I was at peace with who I was and who I am as a human being. So I know someone else come in here. So the context I was holding and what I teach is, I will be the man, the woman of my dreams will identify or be able to relate, find as hers. And so it's kind of funny is like I'd become this person that I believe that the person, a woman, would identify with and be attracted to. Didn't have to win her out, didn't have to play any of these little mind game things. I just had to be me. And if I wasn't attracting the right women, I had to spend more time working on me. And that was the big secret. And then I used technology, in this case, psychology, and data to narrow the scope. So I joined a fairly expensive website for dating that had a lot of psychological profiles that brought in psychology. It's a little out of date, I'll admit this, but it was the only thing I could find. A lot of dating apps out there. I did a review of all of them. I signed up for all of them, but I really focused on one where there was an entry barrier. I didn't want somebody who wasn't taking it seriously. So I was willing to spend money to take this process seriously. And I figured, provided it wasn't women were free, there's a lot of things like guys get to pay, right? But women get a free ride. I owned a bulletin board system way back before the internet, so I know how that trick works. So I'm looking for something where there's equality in terms of investment in time, investment in the profiling. Someone was making a similar investment. So I figured if I narrowed the using data to narrow the pool, that would be helpful. And the idea for that came out of the book Homo Do, an audiobook. There's a segment in there. It's like the story of humanity's future today, tomorrow, whatever. It's really interesting, mind expanding stuff. But in there, they're talking about like big data, like Google or something like that. And so like they know where you go eat, when your habits, when you go to bed, when you get up, what music you listen. I mean, they know everything about you. Big data does. Okay. So imagine big data being part of the data analytics when you wanted to go out on a date and you got 3 dates to choose from this week. And you ask big data, "Hey, should I go out with this person, this person, this person?" Now, there's what you are willing to share, and there's what big data actually knows. So big data says, no, number 1 and number 2 are bad, but number 3 is who you should go out with. Why? Because they know all the data behind the scenes, and they can bring in psychology and all sorts of stuff that we don't look at. I mean, we're just pretty running through our genetics. So I wanted to include some of that in narrowing my scope. And what was interesting is me being me, working this out, doing the profiles and stuff like that. Like my profile was, and it was really a rudimentary platform. I don't even want to name it because the platform really kind of sucks. And I don't want to give them any shout outs. You just kind of have to find that on your own. But um, I was doing the data science profiling thing because I'm a geek. And anyway, so I kind of, they gave you your list of matches each day, and you reach out. It's like, oh, this is not. It's going to take me some time. So I started being me on this platform, and I was changing up my profile. What I didn't realize is every time I changed up my profile, anyone that I had a match with received a notification that I had made a change. And guess what? Diana noticed this. Out of all of her matches and thousands of people all around, whatever possibility, she noticed me being me. And she thought that was interesting because I literally stood out like a neon light compared to all my other competitors. Not that I have any competitors, but just kind of stood out. And I was like sharing context. I wasn't trying to be anyone I wasn't. I was committed to, I am the man, the woman of my dreams will identify as hers. I thought about this just recently. I thought, that's exactly what happened. I held this context. Now, if you get into Heart Math Institute stuff and things like that, they've identified that you have an energy that radiates from your heart, and they can measure it out like 6, 8 feet, but mathematically it goes up like 10 miles. And if you bring in quantum physics, it goes to infinity. If you want to get into that woo-woo stuff, there's some science behind that, which is interesting. But I held this context and I was clear. And I'd done a lot of inner work, and I wasn't in this BSing mode. I wasn't trying to sell. I wasn't even looking. I was looking for a relationship, but I wanted to go through a process of let's be friends first because I was up clear. I had a significant relationship end, and I wasn't ready to jump into a new relationship. And another shout out there, book called The Journey from Abandonment to Healing. Yeah, The Journey from Abandonment to Healing goes into the neurochemical processes of addiction. So when you're in a relationship with your dog, your cat, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, or someone you're dating, you become addicted to them. Literally, there's a neurological chemical process that's like heroin. So that's why it's like you're going through a chemical withdrawal system neurologically when a relationship ends, whether it be because of betrayal or whatever. I actually had a heart attack, came out later. Another story from another time, when a relationship came to an end. So, yeah, I'm not gonna get into that. But the point is, yeah, it's, we bond, and if you have traumas and you have all this stuff that you have to heal, really, you kinda have to work on you being the man or woman ready for that relationship of your dreams. Because if you're carrying that baggage and that hurt and you got years of counseling ahead of you and all this other sort of stuff, are you able to be that man or woman of the other person's dreams? It's not to shoulder a burden on you. It's like I see people just jumping from one relationship to another because they have a neurological chemical addiction, and it's more pain. It's easier to just move that addiction to another person than it is to actually heal yourself. And that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. And, um, it's tough. It's tough. It's part of the mind game thing. I spent 3 years. I could go out and meet up with someone, go to a movie or something like that. I could associate with women, but I wouldn't like have sex with women. I wouldn't. I avoided that, and it was learned some things. Saying no is just seems to be bad. But anyway, and then you have these. I began this talking about you have the different phases of life. So depending on your phase of life, there's different priorities and sort of things like that too. And I had no understanding of that when I was younger. I think younger people, if you're a younger person listening to this, identifying where you are in your phase in life. There's reasons why people, like women are in their sexual prime between ages 28 and 33, men between ages 14, 16, 17. Kind of interesting disconnect, right? Um, that's nature. It has nothing to do with it's just our genetics. And there's all sorts of complexities there. And we bring in religious ideologies or philosophical ideologies which go against the reality of our biology and the reality of things that we know, but we don't want to accept. So making a study of that is important. And then, we're complicated. Like religious belief systems are really, really important. So people of different religious belief systems, even though they could make the relationship work, a lot of times it won't because they just have different beliefs, and beliefs are very powerful. So that's all part of it is being clear. Who are you? You know, I think in the last Love is Blind, one of the dudes was dating a Jewish woman. Her dad like pulled out a bunch of knives. Oh, you're going to convert to Judaism. Well, when do you want to do this? Which knife would you like? I thought it was absolutely hilarious, but it also makes a very serious point. And a lot of times it happens. It's like, you know, are you clear on who you are? And then in a relationship, there's two deal killers I've identified in life so far. Is a willingness, right? Someone that's willing, right? And are they reciprocating, right? A lot of times it's like you maybe found them, maybe found you, but are they willing to be or become? Are they willing to grow and change? Because I can tell you, whoever you meet today, 5 years from now, your needs and their needs are probably going to be different. Are they willing to grow and change? Are you willing to grow and change? And we have this thing about, oh, just accept me for the way I am. I am who I am, just the way I am. And if you don't like it, F off. And it's like, okay, great, but that doesn't really work because you're not willing. In relationships with humans, you have to be willing. You have to be willing to compromise. You have to be able to have a conversation. You have to learn new communication skills. NVC, I'd suggest, parents, teenagers, nonviolent communications, four-part process. Write that down. Nonviolent communications, whole international organization about it. Diplomats learn it. NVC, it works. It's stunning how well it works. But a lot of us don't even know that. I never knew that. Spent some money dealing with a teenager, learned that one. A lot of folks aren't willing. If you want to know if you should end a relationship or not, you need to ask yourself. You need to test this. Well, is my partner willing? Willing to go to counseling? Willing to seek out help? I would suggest data-driven and not religion-driven counseling, but that's just me. Not willing, odds are it's not going to work. And people in domestic violence situations, it'll take them 12 years to figure it out. That is how willing the average person, male or female, is willing to suffer in an unwilling, abusive scenario. 12 years. That's a long time. Shouldn't take that long. It's not about giving ultimatums. It's like, well, there's books out there, how do I know if my relationship's over? Blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you, if they're not reciprocating love, kindness, respect, and they're not willing to learn, grow, and change to create together a relationship that's happy, it's not worth it. It's done. I don't care how many oaths you made to whatever deity. You're never going to be happy, and it doesn't get better unless there's willingness and reciprocation as a core foundation. Dating somebody and they're not reciprocating, and it's just not, not all the time. I mean, just like it's a context that you hold. I'm going to go one level deeper that the people that came and went aren't going to get. So, and this will rankle some folks. Because it's about spirituality and belief stuff. So right now, most of the world has this male-dominated belief system. And a long time ago, I was born and raised to believe, a woman's a helpmate. She came for me. Basically, she's a slave, and I'm the ruler of my house, and she must submit to me, and all that stuff. And I found that that can work, but it doesn't bring happiness in the relationship. And I went through some I don't know, spiritual crises or whatever, life not working stuff, right? Answers to prayer not working. And I said, I came to the idea that maybe in all of life seems to support this, that, well, to create, right? Our version of God is viewed as a creator, right? So everything that we are aware of, right down to mushrooms, is a male and female coming together to create. That was profound to me when I thought about it. I was like, well, then what's this story about just some dude creating all by himself? Didn't make any sense to me. Logic kicked in and says, wow, that just doesn't make any sense. Turns out that this Judeo-Christian God, Jehovah, that most of our world, either through Islam or Christianity or Judaism, has a huge, powerful foundational history in, had a wife. They found her. You'd have to get into Israeli archaeology. They don't brag about it or talk about it, but kind of makes you wonder about, thou shalt not have any other gods before me. Well, God implies male deity, doesn't deny other deities, but no mention of a goddess or a female. So, I don't want to tell anyone what to believe because I'm not an atheist and I believe in something I call divine source. And such a source is not limited to reach anybody. But I tell you that when I started viewing women as being divine, men too, including myself, and if you're a Christian, Jesus challenged, are you not gods? Or I would rephrase that, are you not divine? Like the U.S. Constitution, although it's not biblical, all men have certain unalienable rights. Well, I think what they meant to say is all sentient beings, or all of life, has certain rights to be respected and treated with love. But anyway, that's another context. It's for another time. The point is, when I had that concept, when I started viewing women as divine and myself, that changed everything. That changed how I viewed my relationships. So in my concept, in my language, I would refer to women as a goddess. Every single woman of any age would have those three aspects, and all men too, my brothers, my sisters. So my relationship with every human being is a divine one. So where this gets complicated for me is I recognize myself as being a divine being. So can I have a relationship with just a normal woman that doesn't understand her divinity? I can't. It'd be like slumming. Likewise for a woman. Does a god is a goddess going to actually mate with and be with a mortal man Or would that be actually beneath the goddess? Kind of be beneath her. Likewise for a dude. So suddenly, my seeing myself as sacred and my seeing other people as sacred changed everything for me. Context is still the same. I will become the man or woman of my dreams. Interesting, most men want a goddess in their life, right? I mean, they want, we lock, the beautiful, blah, 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 all the stuff visually, right? But it's deeper than that, right? And because that only goes so far. Well, that's divinity, right? Same thing. Does a woman want a slob? Probably not. What does she want? Wants a Greek god. Oh, there's that word. She wants divinity. She wants the strength, the power, the respect. Just needs to be reciprocated and a willingness to be or become. So that's some pretty deep stuff. But it changed my relationship. So it's like when you view from a man's perspective, when a woman is property or, women are there, whatever, and I can judge, there's the crack whore and there's a slut and there's all this other sort of stuff. Guys do that, you know, and women, the same thing, only us men, it's considered more masculine if we have more experience. But, women are whores if they're, sexually experienced. It's just like we have all this war going on between the sexes. And it's just like, well, I came to realize that every woman is divine, even if they're dealing with these human issues, whether it be a sexual addiction, drug addiction, whatever, destroying their lives. It's sad, but that spark of divinity is within them. And every single woman of every single age is either a daughter of mine, a sister of mine, a mother, or an elder grandmother. Same thing with men. It's a son, a brother, a father, or an elder. And those relationships can change regardless of age. Have you ever listened to a 3-year-old speak wisdom where you're like, what the hell was that? Where did that come from? We talk about the crystal children, and it's just like, wow, a lot of wisdom, regardless of age, comes out. It's that spark of divinity. But when you can view a fellow human being as divine, are you going to go to war and kill them? No, you really don't want to do that. It's kind of weird. You don't rape your daughters or your sisters or your mothers or your grandma. You don't do that. You don't even think of them that way. But if you're looking for a relationship, you're looking for probably one. Now, I know I've got friends that have, polyamorous relationships. One dude, multiple women, that's historic. One woman, multiple dudes, kind of a modern thing. Women seem to deal with having multiple husbands way better than men deal with multiple wives. But, that's an individual pathing choice. But I think it still boils down to willingness and reciprocation. And there's advantages for that sort of thing. I just have found that I know what I wanted. I wanted to be in a chosen relationship where I have chosen her and she has chosen me. And what's kind of interesting is when I held these contexts and when I met Diana, we had a total connection. And I never looked back. Totally destroyed my plan. I had this logical plan, dating, timelines, science behind everything. No, I was done. She was done. And we were both willing and we were both reciprocating. You know what's kind of funny? In 6 years, I've never said a harsh word to this woman. It's kind of weird. And she also treated me with respect because we held these contexts. We talked about this stuff. We communicated. Although, to be honest, she did have this cute little thing where she would say, I see. Took me 6 months to figure out that meant she didn't agree with my thought process at the time. It's hilarious. We laugh about that today. But we held this context of respect and love. I always viewed her as a divine being. So I would always approach her holding the context. And she did the same. And we're we're in our 50s and we just, I don't know, COVID was no big deal. We enjoyed each other's companies. I've known people at my work, they've gotten divorced during COVID because they couldn't stand being with each other. Marriage is 10, 20 years gone. Now, we're not been that long, but we're just happy people, and we communicate because we hold the context. She knew what she was looking for. I knew what I was looking for. And she was willing to be willing. And anyway, she found some resonance with the context. I kind of taught her some of this stuff, and I also found out that she's kind of has her own way of doing things. And I learned this like early on. We were like doing Costco samples, and I wanted to go in for a second sample. And she's kind of got this thing where she's just only going to take one sample. I was unable to help maneuver her through the crowd to get a second sample. It was very cute. And she will not be bullied or any of that stuff. Not that I was even trying. It was just kind of, just these little things. And I've learned that I have a tendency to underestimate her power and her abilities, but I've always held the context. And we've learned through just living life, and life hasn't been perfect. And I'll sometimes throw out team D&D and stuff like that, but we're always cheering each other on. We're always edifying each other, and it's not even something we read out of a book. It's just a context. She views me as a divine being. I view her and treat her as a divine being. It's mutual respect. And we have difficult days in reality. I mean, all the life stuff is there, but we hold the context. It's not a list. It's a point of view. It's a context held. And we've we create together the relationship of our dreams. And as we grow and change and evolve, and we have different interests, we talk about those. And life is literally an adventure for us, whether we have extra money or not, or whatever. We just live the adventure. And I'm the happiest dude I know at age 58. It's kind of crazy. So I wanted to talk about that, about holding that context, and then I want to wrap up with, well, David, well, how do you become the man or woman of your dreams? How do you heal all these issues? And that's actually a whole nother thing for another time, but I want to talk about that because, like, the last year has been tough for everyone in the world, it seems. And I'm looking at my cryptocurrency charts. If you know anything about my stuff, I'm really into crypto. And just like we had some wealthy people, FTX, the owner, wealth wasn't good enough. So it just caused a lot of pain and suffering financially for a lot of folks. I took a couple hits, which was unexpected. I say I teach expect the unexpected, but I mean, it was really out of left field at a whole nother level. And it's just like, how do you deal with that? Well, I use VR. And before I had VR, I learned some things. And it's like, when you wake up, there's that twilight time, how you begin your day. So, I mean, Zig Ziglar, old fashioned stuff, but it kind of cool. He would tell folks to wake up, clap your hands, and giggle, and just begin your day with something good. We got VR now for me, so that's wake up and do a trip in a Maloka, kind of like a interactive meditation for folks that if they fall asleep during meditation because it's too boring or whatever, get it. I understand. Not going to go in deep story in my own path there, but this is more interesting where you're actually taking control of the mind game of what's being thrown at you. Okay. Like if you listen to your music, I learned this when I was a teenager. I'd listen to the music. It's like, I love this music, but I hated the lyrics because they were really dark. A lot of times people will jones for lyrics that support the state of being that they're in right now that they hate. It could be anger, it could be sadness, it could be whatever. So they tune in music that reaffirms that energy level. And it's kind of complicated. There's some psychology I could start getting into. I don't want to. Just like I learned early on in life that I would choose my music carefully, the energy of it to reflect the mood I wanted to be in. If I wanted to be happy, I would choose happy, upbeat music. Simple stuff. We all know this. This is not rocket science stuff, but taking conscious control of that is important. If you need healing and trauma and stuff like understanding your trauma and healing, How do you begin your day? And then big thing is, how do you end your day? Like before I did this thing, I did a couple things in VR. Trip was one of them. Maloka was another one. I'm taking some stuff because I worked today, and it was just, it's end of week. And I'm just kind of just tired of the day. And it's like, well, how do I want to end my day? So I took control over how I ended my day. What mental, emotional seeds did I plant in this, that when I go to bed tonight, I'm going to spend the next 8, 9, 10 hours, however long my sleep cycle is. I put that in motion. That's part of my healing cycle. And I learned that. I did that for 3 years. It took me 3 years to get my head screwed on straight because I'm out of healing. In fact, it wasn't until COVID that I realized that I had a lot of childhood trauma. I never viewed myself as a survivor of childhood domestic violence or anything like that, but I was, but not the kind that you would think about. A lot of it was gaslighting, mental, emotional manipulation. It wasn't the physical violence. Physical violence, rape, and all that stuff, not to take away from that. Those are really obvious things, but a lot of us, we were mentally, emotionally, and spiritually manipulated and abused as children, as well as spanking and all sorts of other punitive punishments where parents only knew that one methodology, which is pain and suffering, and rewarding with candy. Huh. Type 2 diabetic sitting in front of you right now. Imagine that. Oh, feeling bad, David? Here, have some candy. Went to the doctor, got a shot. Here, have some candy. There was sugar in the formula. Well, I mean, seriously, there's no mystery. It has nothing to do with my genetics. I was born and raised in a society that addicted me to sugar, which is responsive like a drug. So, yeah, so there's a lot of that we don't even think about during times we can't even remember influenced us in relationships. We literally have to get a point in life where we say, who do I want to be? And then we have to figure out how to be that. In fact, I think when my relationship ended 6 years ago, and it was so traumatic for me. I literally turns out I had a heart attack. There's a reason why I lost my ability to stand. I hit the floor and couldn't breathe for 3 minutes. I thought it was just an emotional thing. No, I actually literally they didn't EKG me a few years ago. I was like, oh, sometime in the last 10 years, dude, you had a heart attack. What? And I then figured it out. Broke my heart, had a heart attack. And so the book and the stuff that I went through then is I came across that relationship was really tied to my spirituality, and that the book I came across was by Gabby Bernstein, and it was The Universe Has Your Back. And the title of it pissed me off. I mean, I was angry because the universe didn't have my back. The universe hurt me in ways that were so deep. It was kind of unbelievable. And then the other one was it May Cause Miracles, by these two things. But I began feeding my brain in the evening, and that helped me actually, because I spent the 3 years prior, which was actually 6 or 7 years, over 10 years ago now. I spent that time on becoming. I became the man, the woman of my dreams, was able to identify as the man in hers. And I continue to strive to be. I hold that context. She holds that context. And we continue to grow and change. We joke about whether or not we would have gotten along when we were younger and stuff. But you know what? I didn't know what I know now, which is kind of why I'm going to do a book and all this sort of stuff, because I see so much pain and suffering around relationships. And you can, if you have a horrible relationship at home, you're in a marriage and you want to make it work, the only way I can see that happening and working is if both parties are willing and reciprocating in recreating or rebooting that relationship. I think any two people could actually become and create the relationship of their dreams. I'm pretty certain of that. However, both people have to be willing and reciprocating. You can't have a woman waking up to her power and a man wanting to dominate her. It's not going to work. She will drive him crazy and he will try to dominate her and become abusive, and it's just a mess. He has to shift his context of how he views her. Most men in our modern culture, especially if they're involved with a traditional religious belief system, won't make that leap. I know a man is supposed to love his woman, his wife, as Jesus loved the church. I actually literally had listen to a Catholic priest look at a friend of mine and say, "Are you willing to be crucified for her?" What a horrible context. I mean, I get it, you know. It's actually an ancient context because the men would sacrifice. But anyway, I don't want to get into all that history stuff. But the point is that was kind of dark. But I don't think it has to. I think it's simpler than that. He just simply needs to view her not as a lesser being, but as divine. And likewise, I know any of the pagans that might be watching this, you know, if you've ever been to one of those types of circles or Wiccan circles, you'll be challenged at the point of a knife or a sword, and you'll be greeted, "Thou art God," or "Thou art goddess. How do you enter?" The answer is with perfect love and perfect peace is usually the answer, but there's usually anyways, but it's a challenge. Like, you're about to enter sacredness. How are you going to be in this circle? I thought it was brilliant. Brilliant stuff, by the way. So shout out to all my pagan brothers and sisters on that stuff. But you know, but you're literally addressing each other as divine. In an Indian culture, you know, it's like, what is it? Namaste. The light of the divine in me recognizes and honors the light of the divine in you. I mean, every indigenous concept, Jesus, are you not gods? Are you not God? Has this context, but we don't know how to bring it to life. We don't know how to bring it to life. Not day to day. Not in our business, not in our governance, and certainly not in our relationships. Not even how we treat our children. We teach abuse and we wonder why they grow up to be either victims, survivors, or abusers, bully. It's just crazy. It's like a disease that perpetuates itself until we are willing to have the conversation. So I'm going to wrap up here with just repeating it. You know, if you want to find the man or woman of your dreams, yeah, you have to figure out kind of what your idea of that is, right? And right, you need to probably matrix that against what is your phase of life. And, you know, if you're younger, what phases of life do you have ahead of you? Because you've got the, you know, this phase of life, sex and sexuality. You've got the, you know, having children, right? You know, whatever that is. Some people can't have children. So maybe that is, you know, becoming a foster parent or adoption or whatever that is. And then there's, you know, when you grow out of that, when you're in the elder phase of your life, kind of where I'm at right now, 58, moving to that phase of life. Um, You know, who is that? Who are you? Who do you need to be? Who do you need to become in each phase? What are your needs as a man or woman during each one of those phases? It's a little bit deeper and kind of get an idea. But at the core of that is always going to be someone that's willing and reciprocating. Men's biggest complaints is when they're young is this woman of their dreams has a child and suddenly he's no longer the big deal anymore. And the child comes and goes, and the relationship's destroyed sometime within the next 18 years. You had a little bit of financial things, more children, affairs, blah, blah, blah. Next stage of life, you know, he's, especially if they start dating when they're young, it just makes total sense to me when you understand the biology of it. Oh, they were dating. He was in his sexual prime, 16, 17, 18. They got married when they're 19. She comes in her sexual prime somewhere around age 28, 29. And the statistics are kind of interesting to look at it. Actually, women cheat more than men do. Hmm. There's a reason for it. So understanding all that rather than hiding it and burying it and avoiding it and trying to bring a religious ideology to ignore reality, it's just like, well, maybe if we understand ourselves, we can heal. If we can understand what happened, we can heal. If we understand where we are in our life cycle and maybe these relationships didn't work, you know, what's next? Well, you have to become ready for what's next if you want to break the cycle of pain and suffering. It's about you becoming. Once you identify who they are, then who do you need to be in relationship with someone that's this image and this vision that you have? Are you ready for that? Can you be that man or woman for them? Or do you have to play some mind game to get them, and then the truth is revealed 3 years into the relationship? I told my kids, you date for 2 or 3 years, and then really until you live with someone 2 or 3 years, you really don't know. And please don't breed during that time, otherwise you're both gonna have 18 years of misery, unless you're both willing, right? Willing and reciprocating. And usually it just turns into a battlefield, and it's just you know how to hurt each other because you've given trust, and then people hurt each other, and those wounds don't go away. I tell you, once you say something, depending on what it is and what the situation is, words are more powerful than physical violence. In fact, one of my most significant formal relationships was ended in a matter of minutes by just words. The words were so powerful. I would view those things differently now, but I have a different emotional intelligence and understanding of psychology. But during that time, the words destroyed a marriage. And it's sad. Not a bad person. I wasn't a bad person. They weren't a bad person. We were just both ignorant and unprepared, because we have generations of people of perpetuating ignorance and not telling the truth about relationships and all sorts of stuff. I blame them. They didn't share what they didn't pass on to us. And this is perpetuating. And one of my missions is to maybe help bring some education to that. So POTU, if you want to know what that stands for, it stands for Path of the Unlimited. Because I figured, well, anything that's divine doesn't have any limitations beyond name, geography, language, all of it. So that concept also helped change my life many, many years ago. So anyway, I just want to, God, I wish I could just open up for questions and things, and I just don't have that. But what I do know is you can't find, but whoever they are, they're out there. But you can only control who you are, and that's where it has to begin. And a lot of folks are. I wasn't ready for. I was never ready for a relationship till I spent 3 years like working on me. I wish I would have known that as a teenager. Back then, it was just typical. My values, my respect for self, my women, how I viewed myself, everything was shaped by ideologies, ancient ideologies that had no respect for women, and it was just a mess. And I actually spent 6 months apologizing to a lot of people as part of my journey, and it wasn't part of that one training course. I was just me in a room with a notepad saying, "Okay, I want to figure this out." My questioning of things began at age 6, and I finally got answers about 20 years ago. And I spent the last 20 years testing those answers to see if they were valid. And that's how I came up with this POTU Life Navigation thing. So, anyway, I'll probably turn this into a course someday, but with lessons and things. But this was really the essence of what I wanted to share tonight. My inspiration is pretty much run out. It's just like, in order to find the man or woman of your dreams, you have to figure out who they are, and then you have to become. And most likely, who you have to become is who you would want to become anyway. Maybe that's the ending thought. I knew there was something missing. So it's not about being fake or phony. It's just like, who's the man or woman of your dreams? What are they needing? They probably need an honorable human being. They need someone that's navigating life by the golden rule. They need somebody that's approaches them, let's say sexually, as an act of worship, and holding that context. How do you approach the divine? Do you abuse the divine? Do you yell at the divine? Do you do that, or do you just treat him with respect, or her with respect? It's huge, and the intimacy level goes divine. Okay, it's way beyond orgasm and what most people. You can be so intimate with somebody just by sitting next to them when you have that context and you're in that relationship. It is beyond. It's beyond tantra, although tantra is probably the closest thing to it outside of just Western civilization stuff. But anyway, none of that even matters anymore because it is so deep. And I would wish that for everybody because I think it could change our world. I think women will change our world once they feel empowered and they understand their divinity. And it's kind of crazy because I quickly learned I could not date a woman who did not understand their sense of divinity. And a lot of spiritual women, a lot of people in spiritual circles, they're really messed up and they're avoiding counseling, they're avoiding professional therapy. Don't avoid it. You need to find that connection. You need to find that path of healing so you can be that person. And I think once you can be and you're willing to reciprocate, right? And your willingness and reciprocation, you'll find someone that is willing and reciprocating. And when you have two people that are willing and reciprocating, you're going to create a synergy. What's the movie? Shoot. The Celestine Prophecy demonstrates what that looks like energetically. They brought it to life. I won't get into the fact that it looks like mushroom trip thing, but it's an energetic thing. But when two people are willing and reciprocating, the energy between them exponentiates. And it's incredible. And I think any two human beings, regardless of gender, when they get into any kind of relationship or friendship, if they're reciprocating and they're willing, they can create energy that is divine. And, people, the biblical concepts will say, well, yeah, when two or more are gathered in your name. Let's just leave it when two or more are gathered. Go to any rock concert, you'll experience that energy. Go to any kind of gathering of humans, and if it gets real and it gets intimate, an energy is formed, an intimacy happens. It's really quite amazing what we're able to do together if we're willing and we're reciprocating. But you can't find. You can create, but that creation begins with you. Dealing with trauma, healing with trauma, all other sort of stuff is another session for another time. And I will bring it because I have yet to meet anyone who's not a survivor of trauma or domestic violence or abuse. I've yet to meet anybody. A lot of people who would say they haven't been, they don't realize the fact that they actually are. It shows up in their behaviors. From billionaires to homeless people, you can see it when you start understanding it. And I will talk about it. I'll talk about how to get your power back. Been slapped in the face and then hugged a couple of weeks later. Got a great story around it. I'll say that for another time. So, tune in. Hope this was of value to folks. It was just an inspiration. And it's time for me to end my day. I'll end with a couple of my little video things here that I think are interesting with affirmations. And till next time. So. Okay, that was pretty cool. So anyway, I like to just do that, and then just for those that hung out a little bit extra, just know that what I'm wanting to do long term here is create community, and I have this idea, and I'll share this. It has nothing to do with relationships, but the DDTC thing is about teaching financial empowerment, and I want to teach what I know about that. And I think we need a new ruling elite in our world, people who understand our world, can function in our world, and operate from a different type of ethics based in the golden rule. And we'll make a stand for universal human, sentient, and civil rights. So it's kind of my big deal. So anyway, that's it, everybody. Have a great evening.